apologize to young Philly, to apologize to any of his friends, his family, anyone associated with him.
Hi lovelies, and welcome back to this channel. If you're new here, my name is Belinda. Here is Ballistic Gist. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notification so that anytime I upload videos, you will be the first person to be notified. Alright lovelies, please watch this video and we are going to come back to talk about it.
So young Philly has been arrested and women are not shocked. We're not shocked. Because you know why? Because we've been telling you that small gestures, types of language, jokes you make, we can tell where that leads to. And when we call it out, men often like to jump us, gaslight us, and tell us we're trying to ruin a man's career, ruin a man's life with these allegations of things they've never done. But we know that if this happens, it can lead to this. But unfortunately for men, language and these jokes that no one really laughs at, except weirdos, is not enough. Maybe it's our defense mechanism and protection mechanism that kicks in, but usually it's right, because when it was Keke Palmer, we said the same thing. And everyone jumped us, and then we were correct. Now, young Philly, are we shocked? Most of the girlies are not. We're not. We've been saying, this guy's weird.
And to be honest, I never planned on saying anything at all. It's only because of what's come out now that I feel like I should have said something in the past, and I should say something now. 4 years ago, I spoke to young Philly on Instagram DM. He DM'd me and I ended up going to his flat. Him and his management, they worked very hard to manipulate me, obviously me when I was 17, and to make me feel like if I said anything then they could ruin my life would be over, you know, it'd be awful for me, awful for my mental health. So they convinced me to stay quiet. And right now I just feel awful because I feel like in light of what's happened to this poor woman in Australia, maybe it could have been prevented if I'd said something before. I was 17 and when it first happened, the incident, I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. I was very alone and I was very embarrassed and I literally didn't know what to do. I didn't want to talk about it then. And to be honest, I don't want to talk about it now. I don't want to go into details. It's embarrassing and it's horrible to relive it. However, I also don't want him to get away with this.
The young Philly case is really hard to understand, access and even analyse, and due to that, the public court of opinion has already made its mind up. So let me help you try and better understand this case for a second. As I'm sure that you're all aware, young Philly was arrested under a certain allegation, and as far as I'm aware, no evidence has been given out from either side, and we're yet to go to trial, which is set to take place in December. Now honestly, there are some damning factors here, but let's just try and analyse this bit by bit. So recently, an individual came out and she claimed and even name-dropped the so-called alleged victim. She claimed that the individual was doing this for cash, also said that she had some exchanges with text messages regarding that night, claimed that she was also an adult dancer as well as an OF worker, and made the allegation that this was something that she had also tried to do before. Now, as far as I'm aware, this is a criminal case, and that means that anyone that's talking about the events of that night can too be charged. So I don't even believe the allegations that she's put forth to be true, because anyone talking about that can face criminal charges, and there is no point in doing that for TikTok. I mean, you might be stupid enough to do it, but just take that whole video with a pinch of salt. And due to Philly's popularity, the public would hear this and side with that version of events, because obviously that then removes the stark picture that's being painted against it. And this is something that's really misconstrued here. I think individuals are acting like these two met, they went back, they had a great time together, and the next day she just alleged these versions of events against him. Now, that could be the case. And most people will say, well, why would an individual lie about something like that? And as someone that can't really speak about multiple cases, but has dealt with multiple cases regarding certain things like this, the reasoning in why some of these individuals will lie and make these allegations is wilder than you could ever imagine. A case once dealt with was one where the individual had claimed that his ex was making the allegation against him because she didn't want him to leave her. that didn't really stand up too well in court, and he was sentenced to a minimum of 5 years. Because of the crime against him, he was also stabbed while inside of prison. And months later, his ex would come forward and declare that the version of events that he'd given was actually true after her postnatal depression, subsequently releasing him from prison. But the short and sweet is, it does happen, and that makes it a much bigger problem for individuals that actually do face SA, because their cases aren't taken as seriously. But this is where the waters are getting muddied in understanding. Now, it's alleged against Young Philly that they also have CCTV regarding this case. That will more than likely be him and the individual in either the club, the hotel, the elevator, wherever it was that they were, it will be CCTV footage of that. And this will show the two together, and a lot of people, because she went into his hotel room, have just assumed that she's made this version of events up. But this also comes down to something called consent. And this is a version of events that people are completely forgetting. They could have had the best time together that night, and she could have gone back to the hotel with him with no intentions of doing anything at all, and could have got more inebriated and intoxicated during the night, and that maybe became so intoxicated that she didn't really feel like she gave consent during that time, as his charges contain the issue of consent. And the police prosecuting in the case against Young Philly said that they have a lot of strong evidence, meaning that this could potentially be blood work from the alleged victim, and that blood work may show high levels of intoxication that in their eyes show that she wasn't able to give consent or reasonable consent that night. Whereas people have this version of event that he either brutally attacked her in some way or that she just completely made it all up, when the version of events here is actually consent. But the most damning bit of evidence here is that they're ready to go to trial in December. And during this time, Philly can't leave Australia, as well as the fact that he has to report to Australian authorities. And although there's no evidence that's been given out, and we haven't heard the version of events from either side, with them being ready to go to trial very quickly, that must mean that there is something, or they have something substantial in this case. Now, I'm not entirely sure on how the Australian law actually works. A little bit more diverse in American and English laws. But let me give you an example of a rundown in the UK. If this was over in the UK, he would originally be bailed. And if there wasn't substantial evidence to go against him straight away, then potentially he would be bailed a second time. Now, after that, they can't just keep bailing him. It doesn't work like that. After the second time, he would actually be released under investigation, but he would have to more or less just be waiting it out in the unknown. If that changed, what would have happened is he would then be bailed a third time, meaning that they would have taken the potential evidence that they have to a magistrate's court and said, do we have a case here? And they would have said yes and bailed him a third time. And it would have then gone to court. But that's if they didn't really feel like they had substantial evidence, like it would take time to build against him. Difference here is that they've gone, right, you're getting bailed and we're allowing that, but we're also ready for trial now. And that trial has taken place within the first 3 months. So far, obviously, we are in the unknown, but there are just some things about the case that can better help in understanding without pointing a finger immediately at either side and accusing one or the other.
The Young Philly accusations, because that kind of
if he was an athlete, he could skate.
Why do you think if he's an athlete he could skate?
Kobe. But if he was a, let's be honest. But the thing about being a content creator is that your job is PR.
Yeah.
Like you need the people.
He's just my intrusive thoughts. No, he pods too. He has. This is why an academic said this. It's better to be liked than to be right. On the internet.
I don't think I agree with that.
Because think of it. If this was Drewski, no one's believing it. Same situation, everything, just because everyone likes Drewski. Some people kind of didn't really like Philly.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Your public perception matters in moments like this. If it was Chunks, no one would believe it at all. Not even nobody would.
It's also
fewer people would.
Way fewer people.
Yeah,
95% fewer people would believe it. If this was academics, people would be like, yo, lock him up today.
Facts.
Same situation.
Get out of here!
Let's be honest, with the amount of allegations against Young Philly, do you seriously think this is his first time? And if you're one of those people who are sticking up for Philly in the comments saying that this woman is just doing it for money, I don't think she wants the money. She is not suing him, and although this is a criminal case, if she does win, she may get compensation, but if she does win, she deserves compensation. If you still think this woman was in it for money, you truly don't understand the humiliating process that you have to go through after having been sexually assaulted or raped. Urine tests, full body examinations, blood tests, people touching your body, when if something as serious as this has happened to you, is the last thing that you actually want. People doing invasive procedures on you, if you're a woman, you do need a full rape kit. Trust me, is not fun. These things feel wildly humiliating. A woman would not put herself through that if she didn't have to, if it wasn't for a real criminal case. And to those saying he doesn't need to do this to women because he has money, like he can get whoever he wants, this isn't about getting whoever he wants. This is about having power, having control over women's bodies and over women who think they can reject him. This is about putting a man so far up on a pedestal that he thinks he is above the law, that no women can reject him because of his ego. Even if you look back at older YouTube videos of him, even recent YouTube videos of him, you can see that he clearly does not like rejection from women. Anytime he has been rejected on a video, he has either stormed out in a tantrum, said something offensive to the woman, or just completely lost his shit, to be honest. Which, as much as you want to say, like, that doesn't relate, like, that's all tongue-in-cheek, that's all just a joke, how similar is that to this situation? It's not a coincidence. If you want to talk facts, like if you want to know how much evidence it actually takes to, one, extradite someone, two, charge them, all of your points are literally invalid. Just remember there is a victim in this situation. Please just remember that your favourite YouTuber, your favourite celebrity, whoever he may be, still could be responsible for this. Police and the victim do not care what he does for a job. They just care what crime he has committed.
Raise your hand if you're extremely disappointed with the situation with Young Philly. If you don't know, Young Philly has been arrested and extradited to Perth, which is, I believe, in Australia, for 4 counts of penetration without consent, as well as 3 counts of assault and 1 count of impeding someone's ability to breathe. And guys, people do not get extradited to face charges if there's not a substantial amount of evidence. And not only is this news completely shocking, but it's also so horrific because you truly never know somebody. Just yesterday, I was having a conversation with my friend about how POC British YouTubers like the Beta Squad were really influential for kids to watch growing up because they were just other kids having fun and not engaging with or glorifying criminal activity, which was the prominent way POC people could see themselves on the media. All in all, I wish that there's justice and the right thing being done in this case, and fans of Young Philly do not rush to defend him without hearing the full facts. Unfortunately, this is a huge example to be very careful with who you call friends and who you call associates, because not only does it shed an extreme negative light on Young Philly, but his colleagues and associates as well. Because this calls into question the character of his friends and if they were involved or knowing of any of these type of activities. It's very important to remember that an internet persona does not equal someone's real life personality. If you don't know, Young Philly has been extradited and charged with 4 counts of penetration, 3 counts of assault, and 1 count of impeding someone's ability to breathe.
So I made a video a few days ago talking about like Young Philly and the stuff that's going on with him in Australia, and some of the comments and the people in the comment section are being so heinous. Like, it's really not that surprising, but it always astounds me that people will go so far out of their way to like defend or like, you know, play devil's advocate on the side of like an alleged abuser before they ever believe a victim. And I'm like, and I don't know if I should like turn off the comments, because like I don't want like to allow that space to be open for discourse. Like, I don't want to see it, I don't want to read it, I don't want people to be able to like argue with other people and like do that on my page. But then also like, I don't know if I'm like being dramatic and I should just like leave it alone. Like, no one's really coming after me, but it's just, it's so disappointing.
Respectfully, most people on this app talking about Young Philly need to shut the fuck up, because you honestly have no idea what you're talking about. If you're coming on here making comments about Young Philly's charges or our legal system in Australia or our judicial system, or spreading misinformation or disinformation about victims making money off crimes here, and you actually know nothing about it, you need to shut the fuck up. You do not know what you're talking about. I promise you, you're making a fool out of yourself. Now, of course, as a woman, I'm well aware of the manifestations of gender inequality, and in cases such as we're discussing with Young Philly, we know that the narrative is always going to be victim blame and shame the victim and whatever else. We know social commentary is going to say that she's in it for money and fame, which, if you know anything about Australian law and what happens in civil court cases or in victims' compensation of crimes in Australia at all, you would know that this is factually incorrect. Of course, we know that you're going to say that she's making this whole thing up, even though you've literally got more chance of being hit by a comet than you do from falsely being accused of SA. And of course, we're going to know that you're going to say she gave consent, she walked up to his hotel room. But in the same way, if you walk outside and got hit by a car, did you give that car consent, or the driver of that car consent to hit you because you walked outside? It's ridiculous. You do not understand consent. I'm going to try to explain to the best of my ability why this narrative or this discourse is not only harmful, but it is simply factually incorrect. Now, I'm not a legal professional that specialises in the criminal proceedings to do with SA or the civil court to do with these matters, but I do have extensive experience in SA myself. I have been the victim of this crime more than once, and I have been through the whole process to do with that. I have also been a witness in a very major case in Australia and had to testify in court for that as well, which I cannot speak of the details. I have supported and advocated for women who have had similar experience the last 4 or 5 years of my life. I've dedicated to that, and I am looking at changing my writing career as a journalist to be a voice for women in this area. So I've studied a lot to do with that and what I need to do that legally and to the best of my ability. In saying that, if I do say something that you believe is inaccurate, please let me know. We're all in a place of learning. I will not get butthurt. Young Philly's charges are incredibly serious. They are 4 counts of rape. They are previously bodily harm and strangulation as well. The Australian system, when it comes to SA charges, is incredibly nuanced and incredibly complex, and victims rarely receive justice. We have a 1.5% conviction rate for these types of crimes, and only around 12% of these types of crimes make it to court. So if the prosecution pursues it, they have a very, very strong case. Let's be clear on that. But in saying that, the victim doesn't bring forward these charges. The victim makes a report to the police, and then the police and prosecution decide whether they'll take it further or not. So there's a bit of discourse about her pushing the charges forward, which is simply not the case. This narrative of the victim trying to make money or fame off such a horrendous crime, it just doesn't stack up when you look at how it works in Australia. So firstly, Australia isn't a litigious country in the same way America is, for instance, but we do have the common law system when it comes to criminal proceedings. So if young Philly goes to court and he is found guilty, then the victim may be entitled to victim's compensation, and that depends on state by state. In Western Australia, where this crime took place, it'll be covered under the Criminal Injuries Compensation Act, WA 2003. The maximum amount payout is $75,000, but I believe in SA cases, it tends to be around $10,000. I could be wrong in that, but in my experience, it was around that in Queensland, and other people I've spoken to have confirmed that as well. And this is a long, drawn-out process that normally takes years to receive any type of financial gain from it. They can then bring the matter to a civil court where they would have to prove the defendant as a plaintiff did them wrong, so it tort. And on the burden of proof, it would be on the balance of probabilities instead of in the criminal court system on beyond reasonable doubt. But there's a reason you don't hear of this happening very often, because SA cases rarely make it to civil court. They rarely make it to civil court in Australia for the same reasons they rarely make it to criminal proceedings in Australia, because when it comes to these types of crimes, there is a lack of evidence in most cases, and it goes off one word against the other, and they're extremely hard to prove, both on beyond reasonable doubt or on the balance of probabilities. And also in civil court in Australia, it is very, very, very expensive to bring a case to the civil court. You're looking at hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars, and that is not accessible for the average person to do so. And this complete outrageous claim that women do this for fame is just ridiculous. For one, Australia has a complicated history with trying to silence victims, and we've even had laws in place to stop victims speaking out themselves. For instance, in Tasmania, we had an Evidence Act, I believe, from 2010 to 2020, which prevented victims from speaking out at all. And you may have heard of Grace Tame, who was Australian of the Year. I can't remember what year, feel free to correct me. She fought against these laws because she believed they silenced victims. They didn't benefit victims, they silenced them. And we have a problematic history with that. Even if that wasn't the case, women don't want to be known as an SA victim. We don't want our whole lives put on display. We don't want to be victim blamed and shamed in the media. Look at the way Brittany Higgins was treated in the defamation trial of Bruce Lehrmann, who she was a witness for, against Channel 10 and Lisa Wilkinson. That's not the sort of fucking fame women want. People coming out and defending him because you like him, because he's a YouTube star and a rapper, and you can't possibly believe that happened, is just ridiculous. I didn't know that you were best friends and grew up with him, and even if you were, if every woman I know has a story, men must be fucking doing these things, and if you don't think you have friends that commit these crimes, you are wrong. It just doesn't make sense statistically. It does not make sense. At the end of the day, we have to wait and see what happens. Whether he'll be found guilty in a court of law, we'll go from there. But defending a man you don't even know and spreading misinformation, disinformation about the victim who you also don't know is fucking ridiculous.
So young Philly gets charged with SA, emphasis on charged, and some of you are more concerned about how Maya Jama, Chunks, Harry Pinero, Nella Rose are going to move henceforth. And the fact that some people, predominantly men, are spewing this rhetoric of innocent until proven guilty, but ignorant to the fact that he's actually been charged. I'm even seeing comments like, I'll put money on the line that he didn't even do it. Male solidarity is honestly something else, because some of you will be willing to defend abusers, even willing to put your life savings on the line. But this whole young Philly situation is just an example of how some men don't call out or notice when other men display bookie behaviour. Because I hate to be that person, but the signs with Philly were there from the beginning, small. But I really hope this encourages other women to come forward, and peace and love to the victims.
Young Philly is innocent and the girl that accused him just wants money and fame.
Genuinely, I want someone to find me a case in history where a woman came out against a man and she became so popular and so famous and set for life instead of being witch hunted, blamed and shamed for the most traumatic experience of her life. And specifically for this Young Philly example, people need to understand that the woman is not going to get some massive handout at the end of the trial. This is the state versus Young Philly. This is not the woman versus Young Philly. And there's people that are so worried about his career being ruined. I mean, didn't James Charles get caught texting minors like multiple times? And he still gets millions and millions of likes on all his videos. And what P. Diddy is only now paying his dues after decades and decades of abuse, and only because high profile people came out against him. So yeah, I don't think we need to worry about his career. I think we need to worry about the way we're talking about this case being so insensitive and disrespectful to the victim and also any other survivors who are being triggered again by this whole ordeal. Think about why you're hell-bent on defending a celebrity you don't even know over the most evil crime known to man.
Nah, Philly wouldn't do that. Philly wouldn't do that. Bro, you've never met him. You don't know him from before. You don't know him from anywhere. And you're here defending him. Oh, hello? Like, if it was a case where the people close to him had come out in numbers and said, no, this isn't the Philly we know. Nah, this can't be true, blah, blah, blah. Then maybe. But have they done that? In fact, they've damn near said he's guilty. So, you that you're late to work, you're inside Andrews Bates comment section defending Philly. Come on, switch the phone off.
Like, seriously, lovelies, this Young Philly situation has actually taken a lot of people have taken turn on the internet, on the social platform, with the fact that he has been, the talk of all of the social platform, because he was accused of asking someone, definitely going through someone's privacy without giving the authority to do so. So it was actually said that a young girl came out on her platform, on TikTok, to narrate the thing that actually, went between her and Young Philly. And this Young Philly of a guy happens to be a very big YouTuber, and also I think he's a rapper as well. Like, he's known, he's very good with his, he goes for this podcast, and like, he's someone that is so known and all of that. Like, how it is on the social platform, so he's a spotlight, let me just use that word. So this young lady, decided to actually bring up herself to tell her story with what really happened between her and Young Philly. She narrated how, at first it was consensual, like he was invited to his hotel and all of that. And one thing led to the other, he decided to have his way with her without her consent. And this probably happened when she was 17-year-old, right? And hopefully was 25 years old and all of that. Then people have been reacting to this claim. Young Philly, who was in Australia, I think he was in Australia, and she decided to come up to actually narrate the story, giving warnings to people that, or ladies that is in Australia, to be very careful of him. And by doing that, she shared her own story. Now, people have been, leaving commentaries on the said confession. A lot of people, especially from the guys aspect of it, were like, are you sure it's not consensual? Like, is it not something that you guys agreed to do together? Why some people are like, even if, and this actually reminds me of a video I staged about a particular confession. This lady was like, okay, she's a stripper, and she got herself involved with Chris Brown and friends. She even went ahead to accuse, Chris Brown of seeing her and her friend and making them to write some kind of, consent agreement. And this girl's case is something that people really need to look from different angle, because people are saying that it's just a baseless accusation. Why a lot of people are asking her question of why is it that she's not out now to talk about it? Why didn't she say it earlier on? Okay, let's talk about why she didn't say it earlier on. Then later on, we talk about why or if it's true or not. So I feel some SA victims, if you've been an SA victim or one of these SA victims, you should know vividly well that these victims don't come out immediately to talk. Like, I have heard and seen so many cases of SA victims. They don't come out immediately to talk or share their own side of the story. Like, because one, they have to think about the trauma. Secondly, they are so scared to be judged. Thirdly, they are so scared. What if they don't believe me because I'm a woman? What if the world turns back, laughing at me, accusing me that I brought this upon myself? These are the things that go through their mind. And when you see some SA victims, apart from this young Phyllis, controversy, they don't open up to you. It actually takes someone that has courage to come out and speak. It takes someone, and it takes time for this person to come out and do it, because you need to be mentally ready to take whatsoever thing that is thrown to you. A lot of people will come for you. A lot of people will insult you, call you liars, call you attention seeker, call you are doing this for the monetary aspect of it. Say a sort of thing, all sort of thing just to bring you down. It takes someone that is very strong, bold enough to stand all of the trials and tribulations to come out and speak. So that is why it takes time. And all of the people asking, oh, why did it actually take you time to come out and speak? Why didn't you say all of these things all this while? Why now? Maybe because now is the time she have that courage to come out and speak. Maybe this is the time she's not more a baby. Maybe this is the time she's now a woman who actually knows her right and who have all of the support that she has ever wanted. That is why she's able to speak now. And this is one thing people that have faced this kind of scenario go through. They never speak up. They don't speak. Even if they want to speak, it takes time for them to have that courage to open up because of criticism. And now, the update which says that this young man is innocent and that and this, I am actually coming towards that. If he happens to be innocent, then this is a very bad thing for a girl to do, because you doing this is actually putting other girls at risk, because someone who actually went through the process of essaying might come out to spill her truth, but people will not believe her because of what you have done. So this is a very tricky thing, but you really need to use wisdom and really think about it and know that you are telling your truth before coming out. Because if at the end of the day people find out that all of the things are lies and you're doing it for the fame or money, then you are actually putting young girls in trouble. Anyway, lovelies, why not just leave me your own thoughts in the comment section of what you think of this video, and please do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying and harassment. We're just here for educational and informative purposes. So please, if you're not subscribed, do you get a huge favor to click on the subscription button, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.